today's been a busy day.
Hmm.
I've just done a photo shoot for our Christmas card, where I am controversially playing Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Controversially, because not everyone agrees it's a Christmas movie, do they? So
But they're all wrong.
I think they're wrong. I think it is a Christmas movie.
Well,
I
it
mean, the
is. I'll
main
tell you
thing is,
why. I know it's a Christmas movie is because I recently watched a documentary where they actually um, interviewed the director, and her director said that they're all wrong. It is a Christmas movie, and there were certain shots that were actually designed Christmassy, like at the end when Al Powell, the cop, is walking towards him and he's walking out with his wife, and all the paper is coming down out of the
Hmm.
building. That's actually designed to look like snow from an old Christmas movie from the 40s.
Yeah,
They were like green and white pieces of paper falling down, and he's backlit like a halo. So he's like Clarence the Angel.
from It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, brilliant.
You know what? It's a Wonderful Life. So every year we do a Christmas card that is based on the most famous poster for a famous Christmas movie.
Yeah,
This year we've done, like I say, Die Hard, so it's me with a gun, kind of like.
very good. Very good.
We've already done Love Actually, Elf, Home Alone. This year's choices were between Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life,
Hmm.
and Die Hard. As you can see, the ones we're left with now are basically the ones that don't have very many people in them. Because we started with like Muppets Christmas Carol, because that could get like 20 people on the photo. And like,
And it's
Love
brilliant.
Actually had about eight. Yeah, it is brilliant as well. So I've been doing that. Been
That's
doing a bit
good.
of
And it's coming to the
um
end of the year now, and you've got a lot of clients in. So it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day because we're both in the similar industry, but quite separate and quite different. Like all of your clients are very science, tech, engineering, math, that sort of
yeah,
space. Real boffins. You've got a lot of real boffins on your staff.
we
But you've also
have.
got creative people. But our sort of wheelhouse is more banking and a lot of different things, but also health products, healthcare, all that sort of thing. We started working with that escalator company. It's quite an interesting crossover. I was talking to the guy again the other night, and we just got one article placed, and I really thought it was interesting because one of your clients is in that elevation space,
Hmm.
but you deal with such specifics. I mean, is it difficult to work out what you're going to do for the year? Because like the way you deal with your campaigns and the way we deal with them, even though we both do PR,
Hmm.
it's quite different, like your
Yeah,
challenges
yeah,
are
it is. It really is. So quite often our audiences, our potential audiences are tiny.
different.
Um, in comparison with a PR campaign that you might encounter outside science or technology or engineering. I remember once being at a really good CIPR session, which was about niche PR for niche industries.
Mm.
And there was this guy saying, like one of his campaigns was really niche. They targeted only people from BAME backgrounds in Birmingham. And I was like, that would be manna from heaven for us. That's like several 100,000 people. Like, we will have if a niche campaign for us might be 4,000. It might be that there are 4,000 electronics design engineers across Europe working in a particular sector or in the world in a particular sector who might be available to buy a product. And then obviously you have to build in that in the industries we're in, the products are the thing that the person is buying is often very expensive because it's a B2B purchase. So, it's not unusual for like a small sale for one of our clients to be in excess of 500,000 quid, say. It's not unusual for big sales to be hundreds and hundreds of millions. And so, you don't buy one of those every day. Like you go out of your house in the morning and you don't think you're in the market to buy a chocolate bar, but there's a good chance that you might buy one.
Yeah.
You don't leave your house in the morning and think, you know what I need? I think I need to refit all of the automation equipment in a harbour
Yeah.
in Singapore today, and just happen to pick one up in the shops on the way past, kind of thing. So sometimes those
You
audiences
mean
are
you've never
really,
done that?
really niche.
You-
Well, I've done it a couple of times, but what you want to try doing is taking home all of the automation equipment for a harbour in Singapore to your partner and
Mm.
then telling them that that's what you spent the money on today, they're very cross.
They get
It's
very upset.
yeah,
It's difficult to fit in the back of your car as well, I
it's
found.
really tough to carry, and where do you store it as well? I've only got a single garage.
But it's interesting, how do you get to those decision makers? Because like they must obviously read certain publications, or you have to be thinking in a different way.
I think one of the key things is that for most of our clients, the thing that would be the wonderful result in a mainstream campaign, which might be, getting in the Guardian, getting on BBC News, getting on Sky News, whatever it is, for most of our clients, most of the time, that is not what they want to achieve. Sometimes it is. So, quite often we've got clients which, by definition, require high levels of media exposure in extremely high profile outlets. But, sometimes actually a really, really niche publication that only has a readership of 2,000, but is read by 2,000 of the 4,000 white people in the world is the much better way to reach them. So, don't get me wrong, there are many times where scientific and engineering stories absolutely deserve, and in order to deliver on the commercial requirements of the client, need to have really high profile outcomes associated with them. Sometimes those outcomes can be media outcomes, sometimes they can be political outcomes. We had a client at Downing Street last week. We've had, like, in the last week or so, Financial Times coverage, BBC coverage, Telegraph coverage. Well, we've also been in, Elevation magazine, which Elevation magazine, I think, has got an audience of about 2,000. But if you happen to work in that industry, then that is exactly where you want to be. So yeah, so it is very much a question of choosing where the audience hangs out and choosing the purpose of a particular project, because these could be the same this could be the same client, but they have different purposes for different projects.
Mm.
So I think that's one of the things. I think one of the other things that we do that is quite different to most agencies is we don't charge by the hour or by the day. We don't have a time-based charge. We have a value-based charge based on things that in the PR industry we would regard as either outputs or outcomes, depending on if you were to look at like the AMEC evaluation framework where they separate things into outputs, outcomes, and organizational change.
Yeah, we do a similar thing. I think
Mm.
we found that, so we used to have an office in America, in Los Angeles and Pasadena. And then when we started to downscale, it was even before COVID, and we started to work remotely and started working with teams. And we also work with teams sometimes where we'll pick up with a group that works on certain things. Like, we had a client in South America and they were a big banana farming operation. And they had some crisis comms, and then the rest was all standard stuff. And, there was a website rebuild in two languages and all these sorts of things. But when you're getting people that are then trying to rebuild you hourly, but it's not, it just felt
Yeah,
easier to be outcomes based. It seemed for us to work better also for a client when you say, well, we'll deliver that no matter what. It doesn't
yeah,
matter whether it takes us 20 hours or 60 hours, it has
yeah,
to be done.
yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah,
I found the decision makers, the C-suite guys would respond better to that.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that for us as an agency, it works better
Hmm.
because generally it takes us less time. I think for the client, it also works better because while generally it takes you less time to deliver on something, if you were on a bill by the hour basis and you happen to have, a relatively new member of the team who takes 12 hours to write a press release, you're still going to be billed for that.
Mhm. I was
Admittedly, you'll
actually
be
going to
billed
ask
at a
you,
very low rate, but
do you find it's interesting because we don't have that situation where people are in the office like you have? I've been to your offices. I was there when you opened them, and I love the new space. It's all the brickwork. You've got your meeting rooms, but you've also got open plan desks so people can pop in and have
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
hot desk and brainstorm with each other. And you've got your coffee area and your nice meeting room. I think you're probably in it right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That must be really useful for the type of work that you do compared to us, where I've got to hop on a Zoom call or something. It feels quite disjointed sometimes, and we're across multiple time zones. Although you are as well. You've got offices in
Yeah,
Germany,
yeah.
China.
We've got about I think 65% export work. And that export work goes, I think, probably as far west as the west coast of America. And I think it goes as far east as, I think probably at the moment, about as far as India. We've got clients in India. In the past, it has gone much further. But then the media outreach we do, like I think our biggest campaign is 21 languages, sort of 46 territories, which would make up about three-quarters of the countries in the world
Mhm.
when you add together all the territories. That can be a bit of a challenge in terms of getting like all the time and stuff. I think us being broadly speaking together, like we're in the office either 2 or 3 days a week, depending on what your role is at Stone Junction.
Mhm.
Like that does mean at least we've got that as a base to work from. And then like we've obviously got the office in Germany, the office in Romania as well, but those time zones are basically the same as us. I know there's like a
Yeah.
potentially 2 hours difference at the widest moment, but that doesn't make too much of a difference. Although if you speak to anyone in Romania working for us, they would definitely tell you that all the people in the UK forget that they finished 2 hours earlier, and we ring them up at their sort of 7 o'clock at night and
Yeah.
say, "Oh, can you just do this for me?" And they
Yeah.
go, "No, I can't. I'm watching EastEnders."
The Romanian equivalent.
The Romanian equivalent of EastEnders.
Something you just said really interested me. So the fact that you did it in so many languages, your media outreach.
Mm.
So for us, when we do something like that, I've never done one in 23 languages, for instance. I mean, I've done
Mm.
4 or 5, but that was tough enough in its
Yeah,
own right. And it wasn't technologically advanced in the style that you would be, because you've got such technical writing. How
yeah.
that must be really tough to make sure that you're not misdelivering or saying something
Absolutely.
wrong.
It really is. So we've got a lot of those languages in-house anyway for validation. So,
Mhm.
when you do it, when you're doing an international project, you're thinking about translation, validation, and localization as different elements of that. Sometimes we are able to offer insights in terms of localization as well. That might be where we've got a native speaker of a country that's able to provide that localization element, or it might be just someone who's experienced of working in that country. But the stuff we are able to offer is the validation to make sure that the translation is right. We do also do some translation, and we
Mhm.
also work with a couple of technical translation bureaus. And in many cases, some of our clients just have translators working for them that are part of their business.
Because you can't rely on something like AI to do that.
No, absolutely, you can't. I mean, AI, something like DeepL will give you a really good basis of a translation,
Yeah.
but it doesn't give you a translation
Yeah.
when your topics are deeply technical.
I
Like
would
even
agree.
the phrase technical PR does not translate into most languages.
Mm.
So, like trying to actually translate complex things doesn't work. And I've experienced things in my career where I remember quite early on, I got a guy to translate an article about robotics because our regular translators at the time, this was before Stone Junction, were busy, and the translations he used pretty much ended up implying robots were going to take over everyone's jobs.
Well, we don't know if that's true. It might. From all the signs.
Well, you never know. I mean, my experience by and large is that you very often have two people standing next to the robot making sure it's done what it's supposed to have done. But often that's because those people need to be redeployed somewhere, and they may as well be redeployed into a thing they know about.
Maybe.
Um, yeah, but you do have to be really, really careful about that
Mm.
because, like, I think first do no harm is like obviously the
What
foundation of the.
robots need to be programmed with.
Yes, absolutely. Foundation of the Hippocratic Oath, isn't it? But I think it's probably also what we should be thinking about in PR because it is easy to do something wrong, so we have to manage that really carefully and closely, working really closely with the people, with the client on the ground in the country we're dealing
Yeah.
with, having native speakers of their languages help us with that and that sort of thing.
So do you ever have, like for one of our clients we've been working with for almost 15 years now, it was one of our first main clients we got, and they're investment banking outfits in New York, but everything that we do goes through compliance and legal.
Yeah.
We're always working 3, 4 months in advance of any of our content, anything that's being put out, because we know it has to go through those processes because it's so dangerous if you do anything wrong. The SEC can be involved. They can be in a lot of trouble, a lot of hot water. not only are people's lives at risk, but their whole organization is at risk. I mean, I assume that you're in the same sort of boat with some of your stuff.
Sometimes the things need to go through legal departments. Sometimes it is a requirement of the company we're working with that their outbound communication needs to be vetted by the legal department.
Hmm.
The difference is, by and large, is that while the industries we're working in are highly regulated, they're often not highly regulated around the communication. They're highly regulated around the product claims in the first place. So, provided the product claims are accurate and scientifically valid product claims, quite often the thing we write doesn't have to go through the legal department.
Right.
But it very much depends on the client. Like we've got
Yeah.
clients where everything goes through legal. We've got clients where nothing goes through legal. I suppose like one of the things, particularly in the engineering world, kind of many of the things that our clients do are based on sort of unmutable laws of engineering. So, the claims still have to be proven, but very often it's certainly much more straightforward than an environment where the communication itself is regulated, with regard to,
Right.
for instance, like the relationship to a stock market or something like that.
Yeah. How interesting. Well, it's
Yeah.
been lovely to chat to you, mate.
Mm.
We should do this again sometime and chat through about maybe some of the things we see that might be happening in 2026. How do you feel about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. That'd
Lovely.
be really cool. I think 2026 is going to be another big year of change for the comms industry.
And the PR, the vibes industry.
Yeah, I'm very much part of the vibes industry.
Yeah. You're a
Yeah,
mover and a shaker, I've heard.
yeah, I'm a mover and shaker in vibes.
Okay.
I've been laying down vibes most of the day actually already.
I've heard this about you.
Yeah,
I
die-hard
look forward to
vibes.
seeing your Christmas card.
Yeah, I'll send you one.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
All right. Well, let's go
nice.
for a coffee again soon and talk about all things
Cool.
bright and beautiful, and then we can do this again one of these days.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Cheers, mate.